Number 10. Violent October. October 2021 was a rough month for MMA fighters beating up their girlfriends. While this is definitely nothing new to the world of fighting, it hit a serious peak in October when both Luis Pena and Chuck Liddell were arrested for domestic battery within just days of one another. The first case is Luis Pena, who not only beat up his girlfriend, but a second random woman too. According to the affidavit, the Broward County Sheriff's Office said that Pena intentionally hit his girlfriend in the face several times with a closed fist. When she fell over on the ground, the USO continued to do what's known in the business as ground and pound. While on top of her, he continued to hammer her in the face. By the time she was taken to the hospital, she was suffering from abrasions on her wrist and even a bite mark on her knee from where the maniac started gnawing on her. A woman who had absolutely nothing to do with the attack saw what was happening and tried to stop it. That's when Luis turned his attention on her and gave her a swift jab to the eye. She fell over, and that was it. As for Chuck Liddell, he was also arrested for beating up his partner. It happened just after midnight when deputies had to respond to a family disturbance at Chuck's house. The sheriff's office says that Chuck and his wife had been involved in a physical altercation, though his wife did not need medical treatment. But from what Chuck says, it was actually his wife who assaulted him. Number 9. Fighting in the streets. A mixed martial arts fighter got into a bare-fisted brawl with a European powerlifter on the streets of Russia. The powerlifting champion was 32-year-old Andrei Drakev. The MMA fighter was Anar Alekveranov. The two men got into an argument over something extremely silly. They were debating whether MMA fighting is better than gymnastics. To make matters more ridiculous, it happened at 7 o'clock in the morning outside a cafe where people were eating their breakfast. Just imagine waiting in line for your first sip of coffee and then seeing these two bulky dudes start throwing punches at one another. The two men got so worked up about the topic that the MMA fighter savagely attacked the powerlifter. Bystanders even got video of the MMA fighter kicking the powerlifter until he fell to the ground, then getting on him and punching him repeatedly in the face. Apparently, powerlifting doesn't do much when you actually get into a fight with somebody who knows how to kick and punch. Even though Andrei Drakev won the silver medal for powerlifting at the World Championships in 2011, he got beat up in front of a cafe and didn't even get a good punch in. But here's where things get tragic. The MMA fighter actually kicked the guy to death. He just kept kicking and kicking until the powerlifter stopped breathing. Yikes. The police then launched a manhunt to track this guy down, but he later turned himself in. After a trial that went on for over a year, he was finally found guilty of homicide and given 18 years in jail. But that still doesn't answer the question. What's better, MMA or gymnastics? Number 8. Attempted murder. UFC fighter Irwin Rivera was recently arrested for 2 counts of attempted murder. He was apprehended by officers with the Boynton Beach Police Department, then held in jail without the possibility of bail. The reason is that Irwin Rivera stabbed both his sisters to death. His sisters, one of them 22 and the other 33, were discovered by Boynton Beach Police after they were called to a residence where there had been an alleged disturbance. It was quite a serious disturbance actually, since the 22-year-old had stab wounds to her back, head, and arm. The other sister had been stabbed repeatedly all across her body, and both her lungs had collapsed. Amazingly, both girls survived the brutal attack, with one in stable condition and the other in critical condition. Irwin later admitted to the police after they caught up with him when he fled from the scene that he killed his sisters and he did it on purpose. He snuck into the bedroom while they were asleep and stabbed them mercilessly with a brass knuckle knife. Why did this complete psychopath attempt to kill his siblings? He told the authorities that he did it because a higher power told him to. Some ambivalent god told him that it was his purpose. In a really bizarre statement from the UFC that came out after his arrest, they said that the situation was extremely troubling. They also said that they would not be offering Irwin a fight at this time. But that seems kind of redundant to say, considering he's in jail for double murder. Of course he won't be fighting, at least not in the octagon. Number 7. Pervert on the beach. An MMA fighter was filmed on the beach punching a man in the face. Normally, this would land a person in some serious trouble, but in this case, Joyce Vieira may not have done anything wrong. She and a friend were taking photographs in their bikinis on a beach in Rio de Janeiro. As they were in the middle of the swimwear photo shoot, a man also on the beach began doing something extremely inappropriate to himself. In an interview, Joyce said that when she looked at him, he had his shorts all the way down and was standing on a public path where children could easily see him. She was so angry at this creep, especially since he was staring right at her and making weird sounds and moaning, that she went up and punched him directly in the face. The MMA fighter has some serious skills, so she was easily able to beat this guy up. After the incident, the man was arrested by the police, but then immediately released because he simply denied that he ever committed any crime. He said Joyce was lying, so the cops just let him go. What do you think about this terrifying case? Was Joyce in the right for punching this guy in the head? Or was she overly violent? And for that matter, do you think the police should have let this guy go or gave him a more severe punishment? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and if you're liking this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. Number 6. Naked in church. Relatively famous MMA fighter Mayhem Miller trashed a church and was arrested naked. It happened in South Carolina when the 31-year-old was discovered at the Mission Hills Church in Mission Viejo, passed out on a Monday morning. When the church people came in for Sunday business as usual, they found Miller naked on the couch. They also found that the whole first floor was ransacked, as if he had been attempting to rob the place. He pulled books off the bookshelves, smashed pictures, and even spray painted the walls. After he went on a rampage, he got naked, fired off a fire extinguisher, and fell asleep on the couch. When the pastor found him, he ran away and called the police. For those who don't know Mayhem Miller, he's a middleweight fighter in the UFC, and he hosts the MTV series Bully Beatdown. Although he first came to fame on the old Spike TV show The Ultimate Fighter, back when people still watched cable TV. The reason he went into the California church and made a huge mess was probably because he was wasted. When the cops woke him up and asked him who he was, he kept muttering "Mayhem, Mayhem," over and over again. The Orange County sheriffs thought he was crazy and brought him into the hospital, then booked him in jail before he was released on a $20,000 bail. He's now facing charges of suspicion of burglary and vandalism. Number 5. Exploding biceps. A fake bodybuilder in Russia, nicknamed Popeye because he has ridiculously bulging biceps, got beat up in an MMA fight. Popeye, real name Kirill Tereshin, injected his biceps with synthol oil to enhance the size of his muscles. Ew. He didn't actually train to get strong. He just had oil injected into his biceps to make them huge. For some crazy reason, he thought having fake muscles somehow made him eligible to be an MMA fighter. He gave himself the name Bazooka Hands and then stepped into the ring with another amateur fighter. However, he was forced to quit almost immediately when his famous arms exploded. His biceps literally burst before the fight could even end, kind of like two giant zits on his arm being blown up because someone squeezed them too hard. He lost the fight and had to go to the hospital. Bazooka Hands never did make a career as an MMA fighter. He actually had to undergo several surgeries to remove dead muscle and skin from his arms because of the oil he injected himself with. At one point, doctors even feared he might have to have both his arms amputated because of how much oil was in them, slowly poisoning his body. If he didn't remove the oil, it's likely he would have died. Number 4. Failed sobriety test. In Cape Canaveral, Florida, a man was taken into custody when police pulled him over for driving under the influence. The man turned out to be Kalen Holcomb, an MMA fighter. He tried to bribe the police by offering them free martial arts lessons if they would just let him go. But the bribe wasn't good enough, and the police still took him straight to jail. The reason he was pulled over in the first place was that a sheriff's deputy in Brevard County saw him almost back his vehicle straight into the side-end bar and grill building. Clearly, he was having a bit of a hard time driving. When they pulled him over, his truck stank like alcohol. He refused to take a field sobriety test and became aggressive with the police. When the cops refused his bribe of free martial arts lessons, he began to offer his services as a fighter. He told the cops that if they let him go, he would beat up suspects from other cases like some kind of bully for hire. The cops didn't want anything to do with it, and now he's been charged with not only a DUI, but also bribery of a public servant. Number 3. DUI manslaughter. Back in 2019, Desmond Green, the mixed martial arts fighter who fought in the UFC as a lightweight, was brought up on 20 charges, including DUI manslaughter. The UFC fighter played a pivotal role in a car crash that left 2 women dead. Some of his other charges included felony possession of cocaine, a whole heap of counts of DUI property damage, driving with a suspended license, and DUI causing serious bodily injury. The crash itself happened early in the morning on August 18, 2018. Desmond was driving down a Florida freeway when he veered his Dodge Durango directly into the path of an oncoming truck. The chain reaction of the impact caused 3 other vehicles to also crash. One of those vehicles contained Emelina Morfa and Emma Suarez Hernandez. Their vehicles swerved, hit a guardrail, and flipped all the way over. Both girls inside died, although Desmond Green only suffered minor injuries. According to what came out through the court proceedings that followed, Desmond was driving without a license, under the influence of alcohol, and stoned out of his tree. After the crash, he tried to ditch the marijuana grinder by throwing it over a concrete traffic barrier. An officer also discovered a small bag of cocaine in his truck. When they did a toxicology analysis, they found that his blood alcohol level was 0.14 and that he had been smoking a bunch of pot. Just 1 month after the collision that killed 2 people, the UFC allowed him to fight in the octagon. He then fought twice more before he was convicted of the crime and put in jail in 2020. How do you feel about this? Number 2. War Machine Roid Rage. Jonathan Copenhaver legally changed his name to War Machine. He was a UFC star who is now a disgraced attempted murderer. In one of the most prolific court cases involving a fighter in recent memory, War Machine was accused of trying to murder Christy Mack after he discovered her hanging out with another man. The MMA fighter used to date Christy, who happens to be an adult film actress, but by the time he caught her with another dude, they had already been broken up. But that didn't stop him from going into an alleged roid rage and punching her face with his fists. According to what Christy accused him of, War Machine beat her up and then groped her in an extremely disturbing fashion for over 2 hours, while at the same time threatening to murder her. As for the other guy whom he caught Christy with, he threatened him that if he went to the police, he would kill him too. In defense, War Machine's lawyer said the fighter had brain damage caused by his fighting career. He said that War Machine used a lot of steroids, and these were the reasons for his violent outburst. The lawyer said War Machine never tried to actually murder the girl. At the end of the trial, nobody believed the flimsy defense War Machine gave. He ended up getting 36 years to life for beating, assaulting, and threatening Christy Mack. 1. Canadian Cartel Man. One of the biggest incidents of an MMA fighter gone wrong has to be Steven Skinner. The Canadian fighter was charged with murder back in 2016 and also accused of running a cocaine smuggling ring. He was arrested by the police in Venezuela after the Royal Canadian Mounted Police gave them a tip that they were searching for a murder suspect who had killed somebody back in 2011 in the Canadian province of Nova Scotia. It was later proven that Steven Skinner shot and killed Stacey Jordan Adams in a small trailer park community outside the city of Halifax. He also tortured an elderly man for unrelated reasons. Before that, he was a fighter between 2006 and 2010, mostly just amateur stuff in Canadian fighting organizations. After his fighting and murdering, he allegedly began to work closely with the Colombian cartel to move drugs from South America and into Canada. He helped find mules by strong-arming seniors and innocent-looking moms to swallow latex capsules filled with drugs, and then go from Colombia to other places in the world. Thankfully, the Venezuelan authorities arrested him and then sent him back to Canada in 2017. He pleaded guilty to manslaughter, but the drug trafficking charges could never be proven. He'll get out of jail in early 2025. Who is your absolute least favorite MMA fighter? Let us know in the comments, and remember to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and come back soon for more awesome videos. See you next time. Bye!